uh, to bring us this very timely topic. Some of you might remember that last fall, during one of the Wednesday Wisdom threaded discussions, we had the recommendation to provide some kind of professional development opportunity in the area of data visualization and data display to inform decision making. So that's why we have today's webinar. So before we start today's webinar, here are a few logistics items that I want to share with you. So first, I have muted your microphone. If you have questions related to today's webinar that you would want Meihua to address later on, please type them in the Q&A pod. The Q&A pod is located on the top right corner of your screen. So if you have other inquiries related to the webinar logistics, you can raise them in the chat pod. The chat pod is located in the top, that would be the bottom right corner of your screen. We will save the Q&A session for the last 15 minutes of today. So today's session will be recorded. The link of the recording will be placed on the OCAIR website after today's session, and it will remain accessible for 2 months. So without further ado, here is Dr. Meihua Zhai. Take it away, Meihua.
Yeah, thank you, Yaron. Hi, everybody. And Timothy, I saw your message there. Can everybody hear me right? Okay, I just assume I know you cannot respond. You just type in. And if you want me to switch my volume, please let me know. And good afternoon, and thank you for your interest in these topics. And this is a presentation based on the work of my office from 2013 until now, and also based on the presentation I did this time last year in AIR. A lot of things have happened, and I have also updated the contents since I last presented. So in this, let me see, okay. In this presentation, I will first review of the current data reporting status of my office. The reason was when we go forward, we need to build our future based on our present or our history. And I will present the need for data visualization. And then I think this is what you would like to hear, the criteria that we used in evaluating the two and why we finally make a selection of the two. And then I will share with you the learning curves we climbed, and we're hoping that our path will be your shortcuts. And then I'll do a dashboard show. The dashboard that we did was in SAS Visual Analytics, and also lessons learned. Our current status, this presentation I prepared was really for AIR. At that time, we didn't have a web live connection. I just realized by doing this webinar, I could go to our website. So later on, next I will quickly show you the current status that we have. This office, we share our data through 4 major channels. One, we call that facts. I will tell you what facts stands for. The other one is unit profile. That's really a data package that we prepare for assessment that assessment data needs. Of course, all IR offices have fact books, and then we would have ad hoc requests, something that not readily available from the canned report. Without further ado, I'll get out of the PowerPoints and take us to our website just to show you what our website looked like. So, this is later. Okay, you go to oir.uda.website, you will see facts, unit profile, fact book, and the data request. I'm trying to minimum this one. Okay, so we go to facts, everything is password protected. Only full-time UGA employee can get into that. There's a reason for that. Because you go here, see, we have all the information in here. We have enrollment, we have credit hours, we have degree conferred, we have retention, and we have faculty information, and we have different facility information, and then of course we have the dashboard. So I just go into one of the report that we have, the enrollment, by different type of students, by different features. You can, come down in here, select, which type of student you want, and then you can select any of those column headings. This is really a canned query, so that if someone is interested in the full-time, part-time, students, you don't need to add. You just come here, and we would have data since 1998 by semester. So we have a lot of information here. Because this is by semester, it's really data. You cannot see trend in, just by going through this data. And we also, you can export those data into Excel. You can choose all kinds of, parameter that we have. So I think, for the UGA office, we do have a strong tradition of data reporting. So when we are thinking about moving forward, we cannot just discard everything in here and going, that wouldn't do us a favor. So this is facts. Let me go into the unit profile just a little bit, okay? Okay. So in designing this unit profile, everything is centrally, you log in once and then you were behind. So, because of the assessment is 7 years, so all the data that we presented is 7-year data. We have all the numbers. As you can see, we have no trends. For data-oriented person, you can always download it and do the trend yourself, but this one doesn't tell a story. So that's the situation that we were in before the dashboard. Let me see, go here. And we have fact books. People are very proud of the facts that UGA, we have our fact book since the late 1960s, and we're still publishing paper-based fact book. And then if everything we prepared, you don't have it, and you can always submit a data request, and we keep a record of the data requests in here. So let me go back to where we are. So that's our current status, okay? So let me just jump a little bit in here. So we need data visualization. So for data visualization, before we can do that, we do need a tool. We don't want to do it with the office our size. We don't want to do it in Excel that you have to do it manually. So the next one, we say the criteria that we used in selecting a tool. First, we check with Gartner's Magic Quadrant review of the BI tools. I think many of you are very familiar with that. And also we checked with pioneer institutions that we know that have developed a dashboard and a BI, like Arizona State University, Kennesaw State University, West Kentucky University, and University of Minnesota. And also the third factor I took into consideration is our current staff skill set and expertise. because it really doesn't matter. If you set your goal very high, too high, and then you might just fail because people cannot do it unless you want to drive everybody and yourself crazy about it. And we're also thinking about the comprehensiveness of the tool. Do we just only need one function and not considering everything else? We think since this one we need to think 5 years, 10 years now, in the future from now. So we took comprehensiveness into consideration. And we're also thinking about learning curve. This is related with the staff skills. If the learning curve is too steep, it might not be good either. And of course, is the price. Can we afford it? So those were the 6 criteria that we used in evaluating and selecting a tool. So I did a review by end of 2012, and this is the Gartner's Magic Quadrant in 2012 in the BI tools. And you can see, they have challengers, they have leaders, and they have niche players, and they have visionaries. This at that time. So as soon as we saw this one, we decided that this is the part we're not to consider. We just cannot spend a lot of time reviewing tools and not knowing what they are. So we just focus on the leaders. And with the leaders, you can see they have Click, IBM. That's I think IBM is the Cognos. And then we have SAS, and we have Oracle, and Information Builder, and Microsoft Strategy. Those were the tools that we were considering. And after that, we focus on Oracle, SAS, and Tableau. Several people evaluated the tools, especially the technical staff in the office, because they will be the one doing the maintenance, and I have to get them buy-in into the plan to think about it. And after an evaluation, they told me that the Oracle BIEE, the learning curve, the administrative work is very steep. They told me it was very complicated. So I said, okay, let's not talk about it. Let's not think about it. Even if we can get Oracle 2 for free, BIEE, we could get it for free. We bypassed it. And we also bypassed Tableau because of the price at that time. We want to get a server version with a university of 35,000 students. That's really, you cannot do it in a desktop version. And then for those of you who know me, I really love SAS. I think, SAS has been a great tool in data management, and I was glad they got into the BI and the dashboard. So we focus on the SAS BI tool. And then we selected SAS. For one thing, that we think SAS is more affordable to us, and the other reason was we have SAS speakers on board. I'm a SAS programmer, and we have several people who also speak SAS, and giving SAS reputation and giving everything else, so we selected SAS. And after we select that tool, and we run into a lot of road bumps that I didn't anticipate before. So number one is a server administration, because most of us are used to use SAS as the individual or the desktop version, and we would have our SAS library to to manage. We don't have to think about the server. And, a lot of times we can use the SAS ODBC to connect to Oracle, to connect to DB2. But when we go to the SAS BI, SAS itself has a server. So that was new to us. We need to learn to administer the SAS server. And the software installation, that is very costly. And that's something when I first made a commitment, I didn't think, I thought the installation would be free, but it's not. Installation is costly and their staff hours is not cheap. And I have covered the two. And also there are so many ways to take that we were not sure which way is the shortest. Once we got into that, they were telling us, if you want to do this, you need to get information map, you need to get web, studio, and then you need to get enterprise guide. So with all those modules in there, when we were so used to SAS only as a calculation, data management, statistics tool, and for a while it was kind of overwhelming, but then we climbed the learning curve. We thought, if this is something we have to bite the bullet and learn, let's do it. But then hindsight to think about it is, if you plan to do something to implement it, this is the time and the knowledge and the learning curve we need to factor in our planning stage. So after, making a long story short, we have the SAS installed, and then we think we were ready to go. And then the next task we have is, let's develop our first dashboard. So I was relatively new to this position, and we needed to have something new for the campus to indicate we have a new person in IR, and we are going to distribute information in IR in a different way, giving everything else like the enrollment, faculty, credit hours, graduation, we all have information there. So what information that we needed and we didn't have there? So that's a classroom utilization information we didn't have. And when I first got here, the state showed a lot of interest in knowing how we are using our classrooms, because that's related really with capital funding and with classroom scheduling. So the reason that we think that's a good project is we already have the data, and I have the expertise in doing facility analysis that I thought I did. And we think that's a low-hanging fruit. We can produce something campus really needed, and that will be a win-win. So that's the strategy that we used, in making the decision. And then before we develop the dashboard, the thing that's different when you create a query report and when you create a dashboard is, from dashboard, we need to work backwards. Before we really creating the dashboard, the first question we need to ask ourselves is, what's the message we're trying to convey through the dashboard? So we're not saying what's the data, we're saying what's the message. And then we're saying what would be the best visual presentation. If it's a performance measure, how we can best present it in charts. And is the trend quick to detect? Is the correlation easy for the users to detect? And then we have to measure whether it's efficiency and inefficiency. That's my thought at that time. And later I learned, when you have a dashboard that indicate an inefficiency, after you show your dashboard to the campus administrators, that might be the end of the dashboard because they don't want you to show. And then we provide optional detail of numbers beside the graph. The reason we choose this criteria was we give them the visual presentation to whet their appetite. And after they see, oh, this is the trend, the natural inclination is, what is the number? So when we go, we really have to go both. And also the KPI, key performance indicators, when we decide which measure to get, which KPI to use, we really need the buy-in of the users. They have to agree those are the indicators that we need. It's not, in developing dashboard, it's not what we think is important, it's what the users think that's important. It's customer driven. Okay, let's go next one. Okay. Oh, this one is prepared, the AIR, when we didn't have the live connection. Maybe I will just go to our live connection to show you the dashboard that we have. Please bear with me. Let me go switching from dashboard. By the time, by the way, if you have any questions, just take the time and okay, let's see, we put the dashboard in fact that's behind. Let's go classroom utilization dashboard. Let me tell you, since we're here, first of all, it takes too long for the dashboard to populate. That was because currently the SASVA is a flash-driven. It has a lot of overhead of the bandwidth to go before you get the numbers. That's one shortcoming of this tool. The other shortcoming, that would be because we want to protect everything, and for the dashboard to communicate with the user to go outside, you have to climb all kinds of security protection, and that's just our life right now. So when we prepare this dashboard, of course we have the traffic light, we have red, yellow, and green. And we think that's clear to us. For the users, they would say, how do you decide, the red, yellow, and green? So we think we need to have the communication, tell people what they are. And the lesson learned in here is a lot of time people come to the dashboard, they don't bother to read. You can have the notes, they are very big fonts. They might not read, but we put it here anyway. We use color and use highlight. We're hoping that they would read. And we have all the other, statistics used in the dashboard, and you can click that pop up. Just all kinds of help to help communicating the numbers with the users. So when we get here, this is a summary. We have 3 years of data and the trends. I hate that. Can I make this one go away? Yes. So, we have the line charts, we have the bar charts, and we have the indicator. This is summary Monday, Wednesday, by week, and we have 8 to 4. That because UGA is traditional type of institutions. There are many things about this dashboard that I don't like. I will tell us later. But this is the two, and we would have different type of classrooms, department controlled and general classroom, and classroom by size, so you can control. This is when you log in, that give you a first summary of how we're doing with our classroom utilization. The feedback I got from the campus user is too complicated. They were saying, you are trying to convey too much information with this page. And from my perspective, I was thinking, this is a one-stop shop. You come here, I give you all the information you need so that you don't have to go, search around. So this is a philosophy of what I think, of what, other people think, especially if they are number trained or not. That's, later on when you want to consider developing a dashboard, keep into consideration how much is too much, how little is too little, to balance that. As I said, this is a chart. We have the numbers. We always need the detailed information. And this is a function that I like with the dashboard. It's almost like, give you the charts to indicate which room in which building is used and what time is the bestly used. And then you can also choose by year, by department, by room size, and you can also select which building you're interested. And this one is based on the feedback from the campus, especially from different colleges. They own different buildings and they would like to select different buildings, and we can present the information the way they need it. They don't have to do the query, do the selection. So this is similar, partly like the BI function a lot of you might be thinking about developing for your institution, giving people overall and also give them the option of selecting without rewriting the query. And personally, I think if we develop something and people have to do the drag and drop themselves as they're doing a pivotal, Excel pivot table, I'm not sure that is the best approach for institutional research. It might be good for operational data, but not for IR. That's my personal prejudice or bias. So this is the utilization dashboard, that we did for the campus. Let me skip the dashboard for another one. This is another dashboard that we did, and you don't see it on our website. The reason was we tell some stories and we show that to the campus, and the campus people didn't think we need to publish that. So I said, okay, then we know this is where we are. So this is about diversity of UGA. And initially, I think Ning Wang, that used to work in UGA, some of you might know that she started working on this project. She put in a lot of thought into this project. Let me show this chart in a better way. We thought in order to show our diversity, we cannot just show our absolute number. It's our diversity in comparison with the state. So this donuts chart, the inside is UGA's diversity population, and the outside is the Georgia's population. Okay, so you can see in comparison with Georgia, we have more white than Georgia. Overall, Georgia is 56% white, and UGA is serving 72% of white. So we thought this is a good, comparison of showing how our diversity population is. And also we show our enrollment. Many of you might like the two y-axis bar chart. On the left hand, we show the head count, and at the right hand, we show the percent, and in the middle, that we're showing the average, 10 years. So we're talking about 10-year data in here. And also we know international graduate student is something that the campus are interested in, that we're now doing well, so we are keeping track of those. The feedback that I got from this chart was, and this is from Vice Provost, he told me this is too complicated. You have to explain to me what this chart is before I can understand what they are. I think he is absolutely right. When we developed the chart, we knew what our data was and how we want to present it, but they don't. And this one, if I do play, I think it was cool. Let me show, no, okay. Let me go back. They used to have a play that showed the 10-year change of different minority, with this chart. I think that was really, really good with that feature. And this one we show by different groups. We use the waterfall, chart. We were thinking, the different type of color is a cumulative percentage, and separating them, you can also see the proportion. That's our thought. People on the street, people that do not work with charts and numbers, they don't get used to this type of chart. They don't quite understand what those charts are for. So the lesson learned is, if you find out you develop a chart and you have to explain to the users, think it again. And also, this is something that when I was working with the staff, constantly we have to overcome, is because we are in the institutional research mode. Everything we think in query, we would like to give the people because we have 10 years of data, give them the option to choose by year, by gender, by something. So we constantly thinking, turning our dashboard into a query tool. That's our habit. And do we need to do that? That's something I want everybody to think about it. When we do the dashboard, the pros and cons of giving people the option, too many options to select, as if we are doing a visualized query. So we go from that complicated chart, we turn into this one based on people's input. Whether you like it or not, I'm not doing survey, but this one, you don't need to explanation. Everybody, when they read it and they can understand. Between this one and this one, which way you like, it's like art, you decide. But I'm just telling you that we had to give up this chart for this one. For easier understanding by everyday users. And this is another chart that we like about our tenure track faculty, is also 10-year trend. When we have the data in here, people say, why don't we have the data out here so that people know, what's the percentage? And whenever you do that, the chart would be too busy. And those, we can clearly tell, our assistant professor, we are having more minority. I think the red one, if I'm right, is Asian. So in the past 10 years, if you look at the full professors percentage and look at assistant professors percentage based on the ethnicity, and you will see the Asian, professor are the one that has increased the most. Probably that was because of people like you and me that get into the American higher ed. So I just think this is an interesting chart to show. Once you put the trend there, you're telling a story there. So this is also interesting in developing this chart. We have been struggling because we know the charts, if you don't have the same Y, it can be misleading, can be deceiving. So we said we need to make sure the Y has the same scale that we can show the comparison. And we have the white is so overpowering of the university profile. Once you have the white there, you crushed everybody else at the bottom. But this is the trend. The trend is like that. If we want to keep everything above 80%, the chart look like this. We decided to keep this way. Somewhere you got to compromise. But here I would like to, show very interesting. I insisted that we put employee diversity trend with the service maintenance. With everything else, we have white dominant. With the service maintenance, we have, I believe the green is African American dominant and the white is not dominant. So that really tells us a story there, but that's just reality. Data is reality. So those were the two. We had another dashboard. That's our strategic planning dashboard. If we have time, if you're interested, I'll show you that dashboard. So in developing those dashboard, let's see what's our lessons learned about SAS, because we use SAS Visual Analytics. About SAS Visual Analytics. Number one, it is Flash-based. It's not HTML5 based. I was told starting March this year, SAS, everything will be HTML5 driven. So if you are thinking about selecting a tool, you need to ask if this is, HTML ready. If it is not, don't think about it. And then SAS has a team of customer support, and they also have a quick start service. The reason they have a quick start service is they realized for anyone who adopt their tool to start with, the learning curve is too steep. So they offer you some, training the first week from the server administration to the first project. So I bought into the quick start service. I said, okay, let's do it. And I said, let's do it using our facility data. And then they give me a invoice that is not cheap. And I told them, I said, when you are doing this, I'm going to teach you about my data and about facility in higher ed, and you are charging me to teach you. That's not right. So if you want to learn about the facility use in higher ed, why don't we compromise? You teach me about the techniques and I'll teach you about our data, and then you don't charge me that much. I cannot afford it. So they bought into my argument, so I got a good deal with that. And the other thing that everybody likes about SAS is their big user group support. And to this day, I still like the vast richness of their user group support. And also SAS has a very strong analytics function. That was my original thinking of going to SAS. We're thinking we're just not doing the data visualization. Eventually, we need to do data predictive analytics, and that's visual driven. That was my thought. But looking back now, it really doesn't matter. Their data visualization and their calculation analytics is two different modules. They might have easier interface, but then you cannot just have stream, at least right now, it doesn't have very smooth interfacing between the two. You still need to work with the two separate. And I still think the SAS data management capability is unparalleled. That helps us. The benefit of SAS Visual Analytics is drag and drop and very easy to use. Once you installed it, you climb the learning curve. Using that is almost like developing dashboard in Excel. All the charts and everything, and you can choose. And once the data is prepared and loaded into what they call the laser server, that's their dashboard server, it's very easy to navigate and to create a report. You don't need to know the IT expertise to develop your dashboard, and it's web ready. And you can easily share insights with anyone, and the turnaround can be very quick. The limitation, it's very difficult to set up, as I said, and right now, even now, it's mobile device compatible. It works with iPad. It doesn't work with iPhone right now. The delivery, as you see, it can be slow, and I think, whatever the user has to wait for that long is kind of suicidal. And their graphics ability is kind of limited. At least when we first got it, there are kind of charts, and I really, really wanted, and they really, really didn't have it. So I talked to them, I say, how come you give me this tool, you didn't have this capability, but Tableau does. So they work on that. When they first made that ability, make that function available in SAS, they called me personally. They said, Meihua, we want to let you know we have that capability. I say, thank you very much for listening to us. And then, as you know, our contract is need to be renewed every year. And they would, every year they have upgrade, they, fix the bugs and introduce new features, because it's so complicated and the maintenance can be costly as well. Several universities that I know, they start to train their staff to maintain SAS server, doing SAS upgrade themselves. And if you're thinking about it, that will be the route you might think about as well. I think I have talked about the fringe benefit. I will just skip this one for now. Okay, lessons learned. From the beginning, when we were trying to select a tool, until we got the tool, we developed the dashboard, interfacing with the campus user, getting their feedback, and the launch. Now we realize there's no ideal tool. Don't try to look for the ideal tool. It doesn't exist. The only tool that fits you is the right tool. Build your future on your present. That's, will flatten your learning curve. Start from the end and start small. Don't think about completely overhauling your current website with dashboard. With everything else, we cannot do that. Prior data preparation is a key. Dashboard is for display only. So in my office, we have the people working with the dashboard, and they might not know about the data that well. And we have people who know the data very well, but not be very good with doing the dashboard. So we really need to team people before you can train somebody who would be good in both. And we learned just the good SAS programming skills are not enough. in deciding the dashboard, besides the KPI, what we need to present, and we also need to learn about graphics. What kind of graph is for what information, how we can present it, what's the best way of present it, even the color that we use. They're all sensitive, all can, make your dashboard float or sink, small things. And also, for institutional researchers, we need to go beyond our data analytics and query, really get into the infographics, informatics. That's a new emerging field. There are so many new things going on. I feel like every day we're so buried into our everyday work, we just let those passing by without keep tracking of what's going on. So we need to take the time and do that. And this is the key. Every time we do visualization, we have to tell ourselves what's the message we're trying to deliver. And of course, we all know charts can be misleading. Depends if we want to cheat or not. As you can see that I reviewed the Magic Quadrant of 2014, and this is the Gartner's Magic Quadrant review of BI tools in 2014. So you will see the Tableau went from challenger into the leaders. When they do that, I think they go with the number of users. Several years ago, number of users of Tableau were not that many, so they were challengers, and now they became leaders in there. And then you think on the x-axis, we say the comprehensiveness, completeness of vision. So I was trying to see where SaaS is. SaaS with the user, ability to execute as a user friendliness. SaaS is not that good, but then the comprehensiveness of vision that it was leading at that time, the Tableau is good in execution, user friendly, but then, it might be lacking on the X side. But this is now 2016, and you can see only 3 major leaders are now in the leaders' perspective. That's Tableau and Qlik and Microsoft. And the SaaS falling down with the easy to install, the execute, and then you can see with the completeness of vision, the Tableau, Qlik, and Microsoft has bypassed SaaS along that the X axis. That's of now. So just want you to consider, when you're looking for a tool. Recently I did have the opportunity and took a look at the Qlik. And honestly, in comparison with the Tableau and the Qlik, if I were to do it now, I would choose Qlik. I highly recommend, if you haven't made a commitment yet, look at Qlik and its function before you look further. Of course, I am, whenever possible, I personally am anti-Microsoft, so I don't consider Microsoft, okay? So this is, if we were to do it again, what we would do it differently. So we're talking about 3 years later. As I said, looking for HTML5 based product for easier, more versatile use of other web technologies such as that should be CSS, cascading, style sheet, and the Java. The SAS VA doesn't support that, and that's my heartburn. I really, screamed loud with SAS. They told me that this year they would make it available, and then many people told me, let's wait and see. They have promised that for a while. Next one, I think we need to consider cloud-based service. This has a pros and cons. I think with a cloud-based service, you can save your time and the headache in server maintenance. You just use their service. And the con would be that means you need to upload your data into their cloud. You might have some legal barrier to overcome to protect your data. But whenever that's possible, I would recommend people to think about a cloud-based product. And also, before you make any commitment, thinking about the other hidden cost before committing. Summary. We just reviewed our tradition, where we were, our tradition and our resources, and why we select the tools that we have, knowledge and skills we have gained, and I did the dashboard show lessons learned. I think it's time for question and answers. I got one question from Chen Meng. He was asking me with Cognos, Argos, and Tableau, which one is better? Take whatever I said as for reference. I don't think Cognos and Argos are the tools for institutional researcher. They are good tools for operational report. Like we have the banner, we have the registrar's office, we have financial aid. You build that on top of your operational data, ODS. But for institutional research, we need to do a lot of trend analysis. We need to do a lot of multi-dimensional data cleaning. It really builds your data based on your cleaned data, and easier delivery is the key. So between the three, the Argos, Cognos, I use both of them, and Tableau, I personally never used it, but I knew people used it. Of the three, for institutional researcher, I would consider Tableau instead of the other two. And besides the other two, most of them, if you are banner, you either go PeopleSoft, or either go with Argos or with Cognos. Even if they show their dashboard, to me, I think there's a gap between what they can serve and what we need to present. So if I were to choose again, I would consider Tableau and Qlik. And between Qlik and Tableau, most likely I would choose Qlik. But since we have already committed with SaaS, right now our option is to work with SaaS to make SaaS a better product, to give them constantly our feedback, to work with them. And what I've been telling them is, hey, you have a lot of competitors in the market, and if you want to survive, you need to hear your customers and do what we need. So that's our current approach right now. Any questions? Yes.
Hey, Meihua, we have quite a few questions right now. Wang Yan.
Okay.
What does completeness of vision mean in the quadrant? So that might go back to slide 25, I believe.
Yeah, my understanding is really the function completeness. So I think, for example, let me go to the quadrant here, this one. Completeness of vision, right? Yeah, so my understanding of the completeness of vision is, for example, when people first use the Tableau at the beginning, you cannot even drill down. You just go present it. And if people say, oh, this is a chart and this is a trend, we have the aggregated number, can now drill it down and then it will take me there. You can have, at the right hand to select, the sticky select, but drill down is not possible. But lately, Tableau people told me they are making that function available. And also Tableau were saying they are adding predictive analytics into their dashboard function. So that's my understanding of completeness.
Thank you, Meihua. There's also another question from Ying. Who are the main users of your dashboards, deans, chairs, or business managers?
I think our dashboard is the deans and the provost. That's the upper level. The upper level administrator, because they need the trends. That just recall that we have our facts, we have our unit profiles for the deans, for department chairs, for the more data junkies. When they need the data, they can always go to facts. They go get whatever they want and they can save as Excel. They can do whatever they need. So different campuses have different starting points. So that's why when we build a dashboard, we thought that is a message, that's a measure, and then we need to provide it to the higher level administrators when they need a trend to make decisions. That's our philosophy in developing the trends.
Thank you, Meihua. Henry from Ohio State also asked another question. Is working with IT in order to develop the dashboard an asset or a liability? Good question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I know that Henry, he only asked a good question. If I had the option, I would like to train my analyst to develop the dashboard or hire a new college grad who really visual driven. They can come up with, they have new knowledge of what's hot and what's needed instead of just go IT. What do I say? Hesitation about working with IT people was you have to train them about the functioning knowledge. They can know the skill very well, but they don't know the functioning, the content, the message. So, between that, I think it's easier to train the people that already have the content, give them the IT skills instead of giving the IT people the content skills. One takes longer than the other. Liability, we recently hired a computer science doctor student only working with our charts, and he's been wonderful. He can do, maybe I'll have time, I'll show you some of the charts that he's doing, but he cannot function alone. I have to have an analyst to work with the person in order to make sense of the data, making sure the data is right, because the person doesn't have the capability of telling if the data is right or not. Did I answer the question? Yeah. Let me show one. Okay, let me show one chart. Let me take this opportunity to show. This is also visualization dashboard, and it is a Sankey chart. We are using this one really to show our student pathway to success. And currently, this technology, Tableau has it, and SAS VA also has it. But then it has a lot of restrictions. When you develop the chart, it's not drilled down, it's not live. You can see the chart, but you might not be able to see the numbers. So this chart is really done using the D Java and the D, based on the open source technique that we did. We think this is far more powerful than any package that provided by any developers. The reason I think about it was, since this is open source, it doesn't have a lot of the baggage to go with it, and they can just focus on one. And you can, this is really, I think it's a great work. You can see that so many years the student, the major change and the in and out, they call that ribbon, I call that spaghetti, until starting the 4th year and they graduate, and you will know how many graduate in what's the path for them to go beginning to their degree completion. And currently this chart cannot be done with any of the commercially available package, but then you can do it for open source. And if you do it open source, you need to team up the IT people that really knows about Java and the D, and then you also need analysts who really knows, who can get the number right. And of course, you also need people like me. When I look at this chart, I say, oh, does it tell the story? If it doesn't tell the story, then what? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I realize it's already 3 o'clock, but Timothy also has 2 questions, as well as a question from Robert. Timothy's question is prior data prep is important. So is it a must to have data warehouse or data marts before taking on data visualization and dashboard? And that's what I was wondering about. And he was asking, can't really use, for example, Banner, correct?
Let me go this way. You think about the 10-year enrollment information that were presented with diversity. With the size of UGA, and if we go 10-year data, you go aggregated, and then when you have, to do all the charts, it takes forever. So that's how we
Meihua.
have to make the prior aggregate so that for faster delivery. To answer Tim's question, do we
I'm sorry, it seems that
we need it?
Technical difficulties. I can't seem to hear Meihua.
But then if you have faster delivery of the charts, that we do need to. Yeah. Okay. Do we have more? Or if I got lost, I have no sound. Okay. What's the other question, Robert? What's Robert's question? Oh, you cannot. You cannot hear me? My microphone is on.
it looks like we're having a little bit technical difficulty. I realize it's 3 minutes past the originally planned time, so feel free to leave, and we will send the recording to all the registered participants. We'll also put the link of the recorded session on the OCAIR website. Please let me know if you have any more questions. Meihua, are you still there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes. I'm sorry. There was a last question from Robert. I don't know whether you got to address that. He was just asking about the cost of SAS-VA.
SAS-VA, I had a department license. It really depends on your FTE, and they gave you a big discount. And if he is considering that, I'm telling you, you never take their original price. If they give you a original price, you can cut it down into 1/3, a quarter of it. So I think when I started that, I started the server version for $36,000 for the first year, and later on the maintenance would be $12,000. The reason was I have 2 servers.